Going down to middle southern West Florida, Clearwater. I don't know. It's like they call Tampa Central Florida, but then they also call Orlando Central Florida, which is Central Florida. Yeah, but Tampa's on the west side of Florida. It's very confusing. Central Florida, it's all of Florida, essentially. All of Florida is Central Florida. Yeah. Outside of Miami, which is
I would say everything north of Miami is Central
Everything north
Florida.
of Miami is Central Florida.
Pretty much.
And then there's Tallahassee, and that's all you need to know. But we're going to Tampa Bay, 9-8, same coach, Todd Bowles. New offense, Liam Cohen is the OC. He was the Rams OC last year, but he didn't call plays. Just a bunch of guys who don't call plays here as the offensive coordinators. It's great. Projected starting offense, Baker Mayfield. Quarterback 23 currently, and his backup is Kyle Trask.
Yeah, boy.
Aforementioned. Gator. Tallahassee. No, I'm kidding. That's not Tallahassee. Rachaad White. Yeah, no, it's not Tallahassee. That would be the Knowles, baby. Yeah. Rachaad White, RB15. Bucky Irving, the blind man, RB54. Chase Edmonds and Sean Tucker, undrafted. And to the guy who was pissed that I took Sean Tucker over him in the second round after accidentally hitting the fucking wrong button, he's the RB4 in this offense. Go piss off.
Likely not making the team.
Dynasty League. Jeez. Mike Evans, wide receiver 17. Chris Godwin, 36. Jalen McMillan, 82. And Trey Palmer, 109. Tight end 1. Cade Otton is the tight end 20. We'll start in the backfield with Rachaad White, RB15. Josh hated him last year. I have a funny feeling he's going to say that just because he's going to get so much volume that you have to buy Rachaad White at his price.
I was a little shocked when I got into the show sheet and saw Josh's name next to Rachaad White. So
I had every intention of just being like, why are we still believing in Rachaad White and taking him this high?
For those who don't know, I did a draft for Josh last year because he couldn't make it, and he basically just told me, don't get Rachaad White. He's like, everyone in the league is Tampa fans anyway, so they're going to overpay for him, but do not walk out of this with Rachaad White. That was his only instruction for me.
Yeah. So this is what I find interesting. If I read off these numbers, would you tell me this was like a top 8 running back in fantasy last year?
I already know the numbers. No.
Tied for 51st in yards per carry. Mm-hmm. Tied for 31st in yards of 15 plus yards. 51st in yards after contact per attempt. Tied for 44th in overall PFF grade.
I don't give a shit about the PFF.
I know you leave that one off. But all the other numbers suck.
Yeah, all the real numbers suck.
Wasn't Christian McCaffrey 29 or whatever that
Christian
year?
McCaffrey was 44 and Jordan Mason was 2.
Wait, whoa. What was Christian McCaffrey?
I'm pretty sure it was 44.
Josh Woods, Rachaad White?
Like 20-something.
No, he was not. No, 44. When we were on the show, Christian McCaffrey was Christian McCaffrey was in the 40s, and Jordan Mason was RB2 according to PFF.
That was in like the middle of the season, though.
Yeah, but regardless.
Yeah. He was tied for 18th and missed tackles forced, too. Like, he's just not a very good running back.
Time out. It was in the middle of the season. It's Christian McCaffrey, and Jordan Mason is the RB2. Deontay Hardy had to change his fucking name after being PFF's number 2 rated receiver, and he's bounced around from practice squad to practice squad. Is Jordan Mason employed?
Yeah.
How are the people at Pro Football Focus employed? Who made the fucking algorithm to put Jordan Mason at RB2?
I love
it. In fairness, at the end of season, McCaffrey was the number 2 rated running back.
He should have. Who's fucking won? What are you doing? Who?
Devon Achane.
Not even in the same conversation.
Which is hardly surprising given how insanely efficient he was.
I don't care. Use your fucking eyeballs for 2 seconds. Jesus. What? Rachaad White. Terrible. Super inefficient. Gets 700 carries in receptions a game. So he's the RB8.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, he's a poor man's Joe Mixon. It's lack of efficiency meets health and volume. I mean, 2 straight years.
Poor man's Joe Mixon. He's a broke ass Joe Mixon.
Sounds to me
that
like
man. That is
a homeless Joe Mixon.
That is a fucking homeless Joe Mixon. Are you kidding me?
It sounds to me like he's the next Christian McCaffrey based on these PFF grades.
When you think about it, right? When you think about it, fucking.
Oh my god,
Jordan
I can't
Mason.
even get through this with a straight face.
I was gonna say,
You bring up PFF grades,
as soon
you're
as
a dummy.
PFF gets brought up, it's over. I got to give Joe a little bit of credit. When Josh or I brings up PFF, Joe, you go in. When a guest fucks up and brings up PFF, you're so much nicer about it. You're like, well,
I'm definitely not. I wouldn't say I'm nicer because I'm pretty sure I've said.
Went in, but not like you just did.
I'm pretty sure I may
Well, you
have
bring
told,
up Deontay Hardy every chance you get. So.
Oh, of course.
I don't even know what his original name was. I don't even know like what
Harris.
what was he when
Harris.
he was wide.
I forgot too for a second. Yeah.
Here's the only thing I'm really gonna say. RB15 is a fine price. Like I have him as RB17. A lot of it is volume based, but they did spend a 3rd round pick on a rookie running back. They're going to try to give Bucky Irving some run, which is going to cut into those 272 rush attempts.
That's fine.
So I like it. 15 still feels high, truthfully, and they didn't really do a ton to upgrade that offensive line. Like they added free agent left guard and rookie center that they're breaking in, but their rookie right guard, Cody Mauch, who a lot of people liked coming out of the draft, was terrible last year. So maybe he improves a little bit heading into the season, but that offensive line still does not block well up the middle. Outside with Wirfs and Godicke, I believe his last name is, they're pretty solid. And Rachaad White has speed. He can get around the edges, which works. But this team consistently wants to run up the middle, which is not Rachaad White's strength. And it's not even like they drafted someone like an Audric Estime who's built to run in between the tackles. Bucky Irving's another speed guy who didn't run very fast at the combine. So,
guy who didn't run fast at the combine.
His play speed is very different. His play speed is very different.
I was going to say, the Bucky Irving hate strictly because of the combine is a misplaced hate. If you have other reasons,
but he's also very excelled as a pass catching running back. So that could very well, if he takes and grasps this offense, he could very well cut into Rachaad White's workload. I think RB15 is a fine price, but I think there's a lot more risk that comes with his price at that range than some of the other running backs.
I wonder if it's a chicken and egg argument on the inefficiency of the Tampa Bay running game. Over the last 2 seasons, they have averaged 3.4 yards per carry. So is that a Rachaad White, Leonard Fournette problem? Is that an offensive lineman problem? And Josh, you brought up they haven't really done much to improve the offensive line. And Rachaad White, last time I checked, is still Rachaad White. So you're not, if you're drafting Rachaad White, you need to go into this wide-eyed. He's not getting more efficient. You need him to get that volume. So those who don't believe in Bucky Irving, Rachaad White still seems like a fair play. In my rankings, my rankings very much trend towards volume. Rachaad White is my RB8 right now. But once we start hearing more and more about how they're splitting things right now, he's getting all the carries for me because it's trash behind him. Once I start hearing more about how Bucky Irving is taking to the offense, I could start stripping touches away from White, which is going to kill him in my ranking.
I mean, I have White at 205 rush attempts. So I've brought him down considerably.
See, I have him at 258. I have not matched you there yet. So
I'm gonna I want to weigh in here because Ryan asked a great question. Is what's the issue? It's the running backs, because you have had the last 2 years one of the best receivers in the NFL, Mike Evans, who has never had under 1,000 yards. One of the better slot receivers in the NFL, Chris Godwin. One of those seasons, you had the best quarterback ever,
Baker
who
Mayfield,
threw for almost 700 pass attempts.
Yeah.
So you weren't facing a loaded box at any point during the season. They don't see loaded boxes. It is the running backs. They don't have vision. And they drafted arguably the guy who has the worst vision in this class.
So he fits their prototype.
I'm scared if Bucky Irving wears a visor, he'll be legally blind on the field. I'm scared. They don't have vision. The running backs, if they had a running back that ran a 5.2 but had good vision, he would average 7 yards per carry behind this offensive line. It doesn't matter. Do you know how good Nick Chubb would be in this offense? He would average 15 yards a carry. It'd be insane. He's doing that with bum-ass Deshaun Watson in a single fucking threat in Amari Cooper. Rachaad White and Leonard Fournette have no vision. That's the issue with them. They both have skill. Like, Leonard Fournette just ate so much McDonald's he was hard to tackle, and Rachaad White is legitimately shifty, but he has no vision getting through the line. When he gets through the line, he can make people miss, but Josh Brady, he's not strong. He's not doing things with yards after contact. He'll make you miss shifty-wise, but he's not running through you. Yeah, he needs all that volume. I don't think Bucky Irving bites into a lot of it, honestly. I think Bucky Irving is like every Oregon running back that's ever existed. Going to get injured and flame out in 2 years. Here's
the thing. I think they're at least going to try to give him an opportunity to work into it. That's what I think.
It's sure,
kind of similar last year to where, Tank Bigsby came in and everybody was like, oh, he's going to be a threat to Travis Etienne, but he didn't do shit. He didn't grasp the offense, struggled when he did, and they quickly gave up on it, right? That's what, they're going to give Bucky Irving the opportunity to. It's going to be up to Bucky Irving to whether or not that trend continues. Otherwise, they're going to have to lean on Rachaad White because they have to.
I'll give you that. We'll go to the wide receiver room and Chris Godwin. We're not going to talk about Mike Evans, who I believe at this time last year was in the 30s for his ADP.
Last year, he was an absolute... Well, and I wrote about this in my Baker Mayfield article. Last year, nobody knew what to make of this offense. Nobody trusted any part of this offense. And so for those of us who understand, there was one thing you could fucking set the time to, and that's Mike Evans getting 1,000 yards. He was just robbery last year. So.
Yeah, he was absolute robbery. He's now 17, but Chris Godwin basically slots in where he was last year at wide receiver 36. And he's sitting around some very interesting names that definitely have more upside than he. So, Ryan, how do we feel? Because I don't like Chris Godwin because I'm not trusting this offense.
So I wasn't sure how I felt until last week, and anyone who's followed this show for any period of time knows that I'm a fucking sucker for coach speak. And they used a 4-word statement that just sends me from 6 to midnight, and that is the Cooper Kupp rule. And my eyes turned into stars, and Chris Godwin shot up my rankings from the 30s to wide receiver 18. So I am all the way bought in.
No, he did not.
Yes, he did. And so I am all the way bought in on a high volume role for Chris Godwin. I don't know if the touchdowns are going to be there. He's clearly not as big as Cooper Kupp. I think Kupp's 6'4" and heavy, whereas Chris Godwin's 6'1".
I think
is Cooper Kupp that big?
I think
I
you're
don't think so.
woefully
I thought Kupp was big. Am I wrong? I hope
on the
I'm wrong.
size of Cooper Kupp. I'm looking it up right now. He's 6'2", 208. He's not very...
So he's the same exact size as Chris Godwin, which makes this Chris Godwin argument even better. I thought Kupp was bigger than that. So I like what we could see out of Godwin.
6'1", 209 is Chris Godwin. They're literally the same size.
And that's even better for my argument. I just look like an idiot on the first part, but the bulk of this argument is I think Chris Godwin can eat in this role. I know what I'm getting from Mike Evans. That does not worry me one bit. But the fact of the matter is this. They have unproven we're talking about the bad running backs. They have unproven to nothing behind these two wide receivers. Yeah. There is no reason for Chris Godwin or Mike Evans to ever leave the field. And we saw K. Dotton in a full-time role last year, and he was the tight end 19 in fantasy. I don't think he's going to do enough. I think there's a world where both of these guys, and we've seen this world in Tampa Bay, though not with Baker Mayfield in this offense, but where these guys are both 120, 130 target guys. I'll take the value on both of them happily. But I do think if they're envisioning Chris Godwin in this big slot role, it's going to work out really well for fantasy.
I have Godwin at wide receiver 38. So that's right around where his ADP is.
That's about where I had him. Yeah. And then I
haven't gone through. Yeah, I haven't gone through and fully tweaked yet, but I have both of these guys well over 120 targets apiece. So this is going to be a pass funnel offense. It's going to be very similar to Philadelphia. It's going to run through Evans. It's going to run through Godwin.
How many targets do you have to Godwin?
I have 126 to Godwin and 132 to Evans. So it's not crazy. But my biggest thing is I have Baker Mayfield coming down to earth a little bit. He had 28 touchdown passes last year.
I was going to, but I understand Dave Canales is really good at what he does, apparently, a revelation over the last 2 years. And I know Cohen did not call plays with the Rams, but if this is a Rams-esque offense, that's a good offense for fantasy football. So
it's a good offense, sure, but what makes anybody assume that Cohen is going to be able to call it the same way that Sean McVay does? And I think that's the biggest misconception when we're trying to project out some of these, OCs or QB coaches that come in and take over these play calling roles. Like we don't know what it's going to be. We're just kind of assuming that, it's the same system, so we can, drop people in place. And it's not always the case.
Do you remember how bad Zach Taylor was in his first year?
And that's fair, but I was going to say, we've seen Zach Taylor get it. We've seen, I'm losing the name.
Well, and I still don't believe that Zach Taylor's got it. He's a better CEO than he is a play caller.
I said, but we saw the guy from Minnesota and I know Chris Godwin's not Justin Jefferson, but they threw Justin Jefferson as the Cooper Kupp role, and that was Justin Jefferson's best year.
Look, I'm shocked Chris Godwin had 1,000 yards last year. That's news to me. I just found that out. But
he was very heavily targeted last year.
Oh, he had 130 targets. He just only caught 83 of them, compared to 142 and 104 in 2022. Shocking that Tom Brady was more accurate than Baker Mayfield. So,
and again, these are some of my other problems. Like Baker wasn't even that accurate with Dave Canales, and that's the QB whisper. Liam Cohen, yes, he has a relationship with him, but I get it's a very small sample size with his time with the Rams, but there's nothing really that tells me that Cohen is going to be able to come in and keep Baker Mayfield right. We've seen way too many ebbs and flows in this guy's career, and he keeps getting these opportunities because he was a number 1 overall pick.
And also, Chris Godwin has had the same amount of touchdowns in the last 2 seasons as he did in 2021. So
that is a problem.
I think that's a massive problem. If you told me Chris Godwin was going to get 6 touchdowns, I would take him 100%. I'm very worried that the efficiency goes down in catches, and that his touchdowns stay relatively the same, no higher than 4. It's very worrisome because a guy like Baker Mayfield no longer has. Again, we saw it 2 straight seasons. Canales with Geno Smith revived career, and then Geno Smith sucks. Baker Mayfield revived career. What's going to happen this year?
But I mean, I don't know. I just feel like Seattle. I'm putting a little bit more faith in Cohen in this offense than I am with. I don't even remember who Seattle replaced Old Boy with. So.
I mean, that's fair, but
Ryan Grubb, University of Washington.
No, that's now. Who did they replace Canales with last year?
Yeah,
that was the QB coach.
That's what I thought it was. Yeah.
So, but I mean, the point stands of like, they need Dave Canales to be that good. They can't just retain that information. Like,
I mean, that seems to be the narrative everybody's pushing. I don't necessarily buy into that. I don't know. I notoriously am a Baker apologist. I don't even know why. I didn't like the fucking kid in college, but I find myself literally just apologizing for him all the time. So I'm probably too high on him. But
see, I was a fan of him coming out, and I thought he really was the right pick for Cleveland, especially where they were as a franchise. I felt like he was the safest bet. Obviously, that's shown stupid because Josh Allen was in that same class, but like. To me, he's had enough time to show us exactly who he is. He's a guy that's going to throw the football, but he's going to hang on to it too long, and he's going to make some costly mistakes, right? He needs a quality offensive line in front of him, and he has one of the best left tackles in the NFL in Tristan Wirfs. That's great. But he has no reliable running game, which means a lot of it's going to fall on his arm. Thankfully, he has 2 really good pass catchers in Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. They can bail him out on occasion, but it's not going to be all the time. And that's why I think there's going to be some level of regression here. Like, yes, he knows some of the plays, he knows some of the offense and the terminology, which is great, but I'm not fully convinced that this offense just remains as good as they were. Like, we know Atlanta is going to take a step up, right? Their defense was really good last year. Their offense is going to be better. Carolina can't be any worse. Let's be real. They were so bad last year. If that offense makes even minor steps ahead, they should be fine. Their defense is going to be a problem, obviously, losing Brian Burns, who's really the best piece of it. But, there's not a ton of, competition there in the South, and we know what the Saints are. So, there's going to be opportunities, yeah, but they're playing another first-place schedule.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think that tends to get forgotten sometimes when we're doing these level of projections. Like, can they get better? Will they get worse, etc. Look at the schedules. The schedules are going to tell you stuff. And I don't think the Bucs schedule is overly difficult, but I don't think it's a cakewalk either.
Well, Detroit, San Fran, and Philly don't sound too fun.
I just know the one thing. It's hard to project what you're going to do with Baker Mayfield in redraft because you're probably not going to touch him. But the disrespect I'm seeing of Baker Mayfield, even in super flex leagues, is ridiculous.
That I agree with.
Like,
he's a quality QB2 in Superflex.
I'm fine as a QB2. Yeah,
I'm landing him as a QB3 in leagues where I go out and fuck with him. And
I think that's awesome.
And I'll throw a normal Superflex league in with best ball leagues. Baker Mayfield, I love in best ball because if I get Evans or Godwin early on in the draft, I get to wait 8 rounds to grab my quarterback stack and build everything else around that. So there's a point there's a point of no return when it comes to Baker Mayfield. And like I said, right now I have him about where his ADP is. But as I pointed out in my article, don't let ADP fool you because all of these quarterbacks score basically the same amount of points. So that just feels like robbery getting him that late. But I'm going to take the guy who has Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, 2 of my favorite wide receivers.
Best bets. Ryan, you have Tampa Bay to win the NFC South at plus 310.
Again, positive money.
I mean, the Falcon, Atlanta can Atlanta very easily. Atlanta. And nobody else in that division is even going to, I mean, the Saints will play for it by like week 16. Like, oh, but really the Saints are going to win that division. And then Josh, most regular season receiving touchdowns. Mr. Mike Evans plus 1,600.
I like that.
We've seen him score a lot of touchdowns. We literally just talked about the lack of touchdowns when it comes to Chris Godwin.
Mm-hmm.
If Baker Mayfield is even remotely competent, he could very easily lead the league in receiving touchdowns.
And for my wild card one, whatever Mike Evans' receiving line is, the over, because it's too low. Like it's probably too
1050. 1050 and a half I saw on DK.
Smoke the over. Are you kidding me?
They weren't great odds. I think it was like minus 105.
The over-unders have usually been about minus 110 to minus.
Yeah, they normally sit even from those standpoint. Smash that shit. 1050. Blow it to smithereens.
The fact that it's anywhere near 1,000 means the books
is insane.
Don't know Mike Evans.
Yeah, that's insane. Like I know the house always wins. What's it? 7, 8 straight seasons this man has just
10.
10?
Yep.
He's old. 10 straight seasons.
That's my only worry with Josh with the most touchdowns is my man is getting old.
Okay. We'll see.
Still taller than most people on the football field, so
fucking truth.
Taller and
he did just sign a new 3-year contract, so clearly Tampa Bay believes in him.
And strangely, faster than a lot of people on the field as well at his age.